Welcome everyone. We're just going to wait a moment while our attendees join the room. I see we've got many members with us. So hello, good afternoon. Thanks for waiting just a moment before we get started. If you're just joining, feel free to introduce yourself and where you are watching from in our chat here. Love to see where our members are tuning in from. All right, let's get started. Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Megan McCauley. My pronouns are she, her, and I am the Director of Membership at the Fine Arts Museums of San Francisco. As always, I want to begin our event today by sharing my gratitude on behalf of everyone at the museums for your ongoing membership support. It is no secret that 2020 has been a challenging year for everyone, and I really mean it when I say that your support is what has kept us going. Through these uncertain months, there have been innovative new efforts made by the museums to support the Bay Area community, and there is no example of this initiative greater than that of the DeYoung Open, the juried community art exhibition featuring submissions by artists who live in the 9 Bay Area counties. Our jury reviewed more than 11,000 artworks submitted by more than 6,000 Bay Area artists, and they selected 880 works to be installed edge to edge in 19th century salon style in the DeYoung's Herbst Special Exhibition Galleries, our largest exhibition space. Though we have not yet reopened the museum to visitors, we are busy facilitating the safe and socially distanced delivery of those hundreds of DeYoung Open artworks to the museum for installation over the course of several weeks. Even the membership team will be on site helping direct all 764 artists to the drop-off location as part of this all-hands-on-deck effort. At this time, I'd like to thank all of our DeYoung Open supporters, including our donors, our members, all those who contributed to the Recovery Fund, and of course, to the hundreds of artists who submitted their works for consideration. It is so outstanding and impressive to see how many Bay Area artists we had who were interested in being part of the DeYoung Open, and we thank you all so much. All right. Today, we are lucky enough to be embarking upon a DeYoung Open virtual studio visit with artist and exhibition juror Hung Liu and curator and exhibition juror Timothy Anglin Burgard. Hung Liu is best known for paintings based on historical Chinese photographs, and her subjects over the years have been prostitutes, refugees, street performers, soldiers, laborers, and prisoners, among others. As a painter, Liu challenges the documentary authority of historical Chinese photographs by subjecting them to the more reflective process of painting. Much of the meaning of Liu's paintings comes from the way the washes and drips dissolve the documentary images, suggesting the passage of memory into history, while working to uncover the cultural and personal narratives fixed, but often concealed in the photographic instant. Washing her subjects in veils of dripping linseed oil, she both preserves and destroys the image. Liu has invented a kind of weeping realism that surrenders to the erosion of memory and the passage of time, while also bringing faded photographic images vividly to life as rich, facile paintings. She summons the ghosts of history to the present. In effect, Liu turns old photographs into new paintings. Timothy Anglin Burgard is the distinguished senior curator and also the curator in charge of the American Art Department for the Fine Arts Museums of San Francisco. He is the curator of 30 exhibitions and the author or co-author of 21 books. As a curator, he has pursued his interest in interdisciplinary and multicultural studies that have transformed traditional definitions of American art and culture. Okay, you've all heard enough from me. It's my pleasure now to invite Hung and Tim to turn on their cameras and microphones and hand over to them for their presentation.
Welcome, everyone. We are thrilled today to have with us Hung Liu, one of the Bay Area's most admired, respected, and I think it's fair to say beloved artists. And it's really a pleasure because Hung and I worked most recently on the DeYoung Open. She served as one of the jurors along with Enrique Chagoya and Mildred Howard and 4 Fine Arts Museums curators. As you heard, we had an astonishing number of entries, which really speaks to the power of creativity here in the Bay Area. and also the desire of the artists here who are a part of our community and who support the museums. We wouldn't exist without them, to really participate in this communal effort, to really have their voices and visions seen at the De Young Museum when we reopen to the public. So we're very excited about that. And in the end, we ended up selecting, Hung and I and the other jurors, about 880 works of art by 764 artists that will be on view when we do reopen. And I wanted to start by asking Hung, who's had an extraordinary career that we're going to look at in a moment, and we'll have questions and answers as well, what it means and what it feels like for an artist to have your work on view in a public museum. Artists spend most of their lives, my mother was an artist, my wife was an artist, alone in the studio. And what it means to have a public venue in a big public museum and really feel that you can finally be seen and heard. And I'm wondering what that felt like for you, Hung, at the beginning of your career.
De Young is one of the major artists, museums in the Bay Area. And I was asked to be one of the jurors. I was surprised by the open, you call it De Young open, really open the door, open the gallery, open to 9 county artists. That's amazing to me. It's like, how could we do it even? You need a lot of time and so much energy to look through the artists to be fair. But also I feel I was honored to be asked with my fellow artist jurors and the reputable, artists and curators. And I just feel this is for artists who, especially in the special COVID, situation, locked down. We all work, some work for decades, some work for a short time, old and young, male, female, and whatever background, just like open to everybody. I really, I was impressed by the leadership at the De Young Museum and the curatorial staff and all the other people, the whole team, just what an amazing thing to do. I have been different group shows, but for this time will be 700 some artists. Amazing, and so for young artists or older artists, doesn't matter. I feel it's when I toured the show, the diversity of the subject matter, the style, the media, and just very impressive. And so getting in if our young artists, all are artists without recognized by any gallery or museum, it's a tremendous opportunity. It's inspiring, encouraging, but also proximity to other artists. So there's a community. So you open to artists, to the community, also to try to use 19th century salon style to install as many artwork as possible. So all of this, I feel honored to be part of.
Well, I feel certain that almost everyone on the call knows something about Hung Liu's work. But what I didn't realize until we were preparing for today's event is that it's only this year that Hung Liu has been in this country as long as she was in China. And so a lot of people don't know a lot about Hung Liu's formative years and decades in China. And so she very graciously agreed to prepare a presentation about those beginnings and her roots in China, and of course her voyage here and up to the present day. So we're going to take a look at that first, and then we'll have questions and answers.
In 1994, I got an opportunity of, I could do a solo show at the De Young Museum. It was very exciting. I feel it's an amazing opportunity. What I did was an installation. with over 200,000 fortune cookies and railroad tracks and ties. The reason I did this based on Chinese interpretation of San Francisco. Unlike a lot of cities in the U.S., a Chinese translation, for example, Los Angeles is 洛杉矶, New York is 纽约, but San Francisco translated Old Gold Mountain, 旧金山, that it's relates directly to the history of the Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area. It's a gold rush. And next, please. Of course, Chinese in the beginning were not allowed to come to join the gold rush until later. You can see a Chinese man, try to wash some gold, if possible to find gold. And then the railroad building last year was 150th anniversary of the completion of the Continental American Railroad, connect. And a lot of Chinese workers built Union Pacific West on the west side, going through a lot of dangerous terrain and explosion. Quite a few of them died. And many years ago, I visited the year after I arrived in the U.S., I visited the famous Golden Spike in Utah, where finally the West and East Railroad connect a lot of Chinese workers. Worked there, some dedicated their lives, but in the photo in 150 years ago from last year, they're not Chinese at all. So I think the next one, please. And so I decided to do installation to visualize the Chinese translation of Jiujinshan, San Francisco, as well as the history of Chinese workers, railroad workers are the Chinese related to building, America. And you can see there's an installation process. My husband and son, it's a family affair, try to open every single bag of fortune cookie and put on the top of cross railroad tracks. And you can see also that time the chief curator and the associate director is Dr. Steve Nash. And he was, with a hammer there. And then we joked, we said the oldest, the biggest order of fortune cookies in American history, and the smallest railroad, track and tie order. Also, the biggest, the small one. And next one. And also on the surrounding walls of the gallery, I use historical photograph of Chinese shrimp junks, which, used to be, circling and in the Sacramento and River and the San Francisco Bay. So that's a part of the ships is very much, the shrimp junk, very much like it maybe the symbol for immigration and the circling the world and uncertainty future, the whole thing. Okay, next one. This is the finished look, and that time I remember it's beautiful when we shed light on this fake gold mountain, and the smell was dramatic, because it's like a huge bakery with over 200,000 fortune cookies, and even a lot of rodents came out, try to have parties, so we have to set up some traps. But that was one of the best
things I think I did in my career as artist. Next one, and this installation, reinstalled during my retrospective. This is at the Mills College Art Museum. You can see a lot of shrimp junks already not there, but with other components. And next one, please. And that's the, but we still have a railroad tracks, and fortune cookie paved the railroad and the golden the imaginative,
I'm curious how you feel your experience as a 20th century immigrant from China was similar and or different from immigrants who came in the 19th century to build the railroads and populate San Francisco and California and the West Coast.
Yeah, that's a great question. And I came to graduate school, believe it or not. So already, entered not as a physical labor, and that's a big difference where your starting point is already pretty good. I didn't suffer the too much. I, of course, always English is not my first language, always live and learn. But the Chinese railroad workers and didn't have the language, didn't have, really good place to live. The physical labor, get through the tunnel, explosive, material to deal with. Some died from all kinds of, from disease or weather or very heavy labors. I felt that I should not forget a century before, before me, some Chinese came here. Their hardship is, I think in some way they could have been my ancestors. They came here, and Leland Stanford established Stanford University. The majority, the main income from the railroad was where Stanford based on. So that's why they also celebrate 150th anniversary of, commemorate the Chinese railroad workers. So I felt like it's from even over a century ago. There's a connection, difference and connection. Yeah. And so that we can go a little faster. This is the old Gold Mountain installation taking forms in different places. This is the end of the installation, just for fun. And this is a video, and one way, finally, the end of the show, everybody celebrate and waited for a long time to get, onto the fake Gold Mountain. And we don't have to show the whole thing. And the next one is I think you can just pass, and then they buried me with fortune cookies. And it's a fun too, that's a fun project, but also very meaningful. And I want to introduce myself briefly, because I believe my work is a part of, is very important of my life, who I am. And I, as a young adult, actually a high school grad, the Cultural Revolution started. It's in 1966. The whole name is called the Proletarian Cultural Revolution. You can see the rally, everybody holding a mouse, little quotation, the book, like a Bible, and everywhere like this. And and the authorities are challenged, not just the head of a factory, the head of anything, even school principals, all consider the enemies like this, and public humiliated and even physically, tortured. This is one of those.
You mentioned in your biography that you were subjected to criticism. Do you mind sharing what that experience was like?
Oh, because I was focusing on study whatever, not as high school student. I love literature and language, and even, believe it or not, I love math, physics, everything. But because I focus too much on academic, achievement, they said politically I'm not ready enough, because red is supposed to be very revolutionary with the party. I'm a white, white meaning you politically, you're not with the party. So that's my criticism all the time. No matter how hard I study, I got a high score, but you have a number one thing is you have to have very strong political consciousness. You have to follow the party's order. Like revolution is your first thing in life, your mission. So this is that time, one of the paintings, there's so many like this, Mao Zedong receiving workers, peasants, and soldiers in front of Tiananmen. You can see red guards, they are waving, everybody is like great. This kind of image you can only see today in North Korea. It's just almost identical. That's what I lived through. And there's a picture of me, posing in front of a Mao Zedong portrait. That's just that time you can. And one thing I want to talk about, I don't want to go too long, but this is so important. On the left side, you can see a young woman offering the leader, Chairman Mao Zedong, the red guard armband. This woman, she's just 1 year older than me, from my school. My school was a very famous girls' boarding school in Beijing, China. That's a very rare boarding school. And a lot of famous high-ranking government officials' daughters went to my school. Like this one, her father was a party leader, and her name is Song Binbin. Song's last name Binbin means graceful. But when Mao Zedong said, revolution, you cannot be too graceful. You got to be armed. So the next day, her name changed to Song Yaowu, meaning Song armed. And on the right-hand side, at the top, was our principal of the girls' boarding school. She was tortured and physically tortured by the girls, by the Red Guard girls, and died that day. And they used not baseball bat, but some bat with nails on it hit her. And so her husband, after all these years, saved her bloody clothes and did a video. It's a YouTube, you can see, called Though I Am Dead. And that's the family. She was 50 with 4 children. And you can see the family photo on the bottom. And so this is a very, very important thing, not in my life. My school was the first middle school in Beijing killed an educator. So started the whole called the Red August, and the number 101 middle school, and was the second one killed their art teacher. So this is what I've gone through when I was 18 years old. Next one. And many years later, 2013, that means 47, almost, 43 years later. And this the same woman, Song Binbin, she changed her name back. She apologized. On the right hand is when she was young, the photo, a red guard. But the principal's husband refused to accept that apology because nobody got punished. My principal died in vain. Okay, next one. And also, it's very, very surreal to me. 50 years later, after I graduated from that high school, we never got diploma. But 50 years later, my friends in Beijing classmates said, "Do you want a diploma? We can issue one now. The school will give to us." So they did for me. But the name signed there, of course, printed, is the dead principal's name. And the date they dated is 1966, July 1st. As if we're going back 50 years ago, I got my diploma. I don't need for anything but this piece of paperwork just standing to me, it's a reminder what I've gone through, what everybody gone through. And of course, a lot of ghosts there, dead people. All right, next one. And then after the 2 years into the Cultural Revolution, we were sent to the countryside because the city is a big mess. And after revolution, all the schools closed, even factory closed, a lot of, really social unrest. So finally, Mao Zedong in 1968 said, we need to send the people, like even from junior high, to all the way to college, because we got we had a bad non-proletarian education. We need to be re-educated by the working class. So many of us sent to the countryside, some as far as Inner Mongolia, different language, different location. It's almost like foreign country. So next one. That's, I think, a picture of me when I was in countryside, and I was wearing a shirt grandma fixed for me. The arms actually her, because she's little lady, so the legs of her pants she put together clothes for me. So that's in my village. I did some drawings, and during the time, but really hardly get paper even. But there's no time, so there's a sharp break between, field works and meetings. I just did some quick sketch like that. And I was not trained by any art school program at all. We can go faster than this. I'll just show you. I happen to have a 120 old German camera, not my older. College students, they study art, but they were all sent to military labor camp. Nobody could take a camera, anything there. So I was keeping a camera. I never trained. I didn't know how to load the film, but I learned. Then I shot a lot of, photos of the country people. And then in 1972, I had a chance to return to Beijing Teachers College, but the revolution is still going on. So like this kind of, again, great leader, taller than anybody. We call him the reddest red sun, not just red sun, the reddest red sun. So all the peasants in Guangdong surrounded him. Everybody smiled. I was in countryside, nothing like that. No, it's a hard labor. And during that, even college, we went countryside many times. So I did a lot of, drawings that time. We can go faster here. Like building things, country people and portraits, and then factory. We also went to factory because the workers are a very important class, working class people. That's factory. And of course, we went to the military camp to learn how to fight American imperialism, and all the soldiers I did there. We practiced shooting all the soldiers. And you can see, this is a picture from that time. All right, next one. And But during that time, I really I feel like I waste a lot of time. I love art, but how to make something not to take order to be labeled as socialist realism. So I secretly did many landscapes. Just because the paint box is so small, I can hide and go out. Almost one painting a day for a number of years when I was in college. Most are lost. Now I have like 35 survived the little paintings. No, you can see no humans. And then after teaching a number of years, I entered through some exam. I entered the Central Academy of Fine Arts, studied mural. So I get chance to go to the most famous called the Dunhuang Grotto or Dunhuang Caves. It's dated built from 4th century on. And that's at school. We studied mainly Western art, but the socialist realism. And then we did this kind of standard, model study. But mainly because of studying mural, I had a chance to go to visit along the old Silk Road. There's amazing caves. There's no electricity allowed, and so that time, not today, if you visit, you were not allowed to go inside, but that time we could go inside the cave. After you're used to the darkness, I started we call copy. I did some work there on the floor without lighting on rice paper, not copying. I just, borrow from different places, like collage to my image, inspired by the cave, by the murals, by the Buddhist murals. We can go a little faster here. And like this, all around rice paper. The good things about rice paper, you can paint on both sides. It's a thing. And in 1984, after waited for 4 years of a passport because nobody in China had allowed to go out, and so I was accepted by UC San Diego graduate program called the Visual Art Department. I was not allowed to leave China until 4 years later. This is you have to so-called public security bureau. Peking it's a police. The police station Beijing finally signed my passport. So this passport is very interesting. In 1990, I got out of China. 1990, first time I could. I was ever, besides come to U.S., went to Europe to see the, Venice Biennale at the Soviet Union at that time, not Russia yet. I ran into Robert Rauschenberg. He was doing something with the Russian artist. Then I thought, this is a great moment. In order to go to Europe for a Chinese passport holder, you have to get visa from every single country. I got from France, Italy, Switzerland, and England, all the countries. You wait forever each visa. So I said, this is a moment. I never chase anybody for autograph, but this is important moment. I had nothing on me, only my passport with me. I said, Mr. Rauschenberg, I'm Chinese artist. In order to come here, I have to get all the visas. So could you please sign this? And he flipped through my passport. He said, wow, this is serious. And then he signed his name. He said, this is a visa to you to go to enter the art world. That's it. And speaking about the passport, now I got in '88, I had a chance to do a project, the Cap Street project, residency. I decided I'm fascinated by our ID, ID cards, IDs. So this is based on my green card. I make a painting. It's not small. It's you can see the next slides, the size of it. is rather big. You cannot carry in your wallet. Also, at that time, the green card term is very interesting. It's called a resident alien. So yeah, you're legal, you're resident, but yet you're alien. So that time also, it's very interesting. Just a bunch of alien movies came out. I think the first one, Sigourney Weaver's, right? Aliens. Then I said, oh my God, I'm an alien, right? And that's also at Cap Street Project, I did a bunch of big paintings, pretty much about the history of Chinese immigrants, specifically in San Francisco area, Chinatown, one of the biggest, probably overseas Chinese,
Hung, can you mention why you changed your date of birth on your resident?
Oh yeah, that's great observation. I thought that my green card is a lot of oxymoron things, yes, I'm a resident alien. And yes, I changed my name too, because fortune cookie always associated with Chinese. And also you call women little cookie or something. So I make my name. Also, I was born 48, but I came to US 84. I purposely switched that. So it's like a new life started here. It's a second birth like that. And also I through that that's what go back when I did the Young installation. I also, it's based from 1988 because I did research on Chinese immigrant history. Meanwhile, I realized fortune cookie was not invented by Chinese, even not Chinese American. It's by a Japanese man near the tea garden, the Golden Gate Park. So I thought that was also fascinating. And what is a fortune cookie anyway? It's a really strange shape, the cookie with a fortune, with messages. So I thought that's also like a odd hybrid, something only happened in the US. So that's what some of the paintings. And also in Chinatown, Sacramento Street, instead translated into Chinese phonetically, is translated to Tang Ren Jie, means Tang People's Street. Tang Dynasty, you can see from 618 to 906 was considered Chinese Renaissance. He influenced a lot of countries. Like today, even you see Japanese hairdo, even some kimono style. It's a little bit like a Tang Dynasty, and other things, religions, literature, and a lot influence to the Asian country in particular. So I translated this name, Tang People Street, like the Chinese immigrants idealize their new home, like we have a glorious history. On the other hand, it's the photograph, a historical photograph my painting based on was a Chinese called a slave girl. It's like a prostitute, shamefully walking in Chinatown with a white man turned around walking away, and then Chinese shrimp junk. So it's like a reality of Chinatown and idealize the naming of a street. And that was the first time in 88, I ordered 10,000 fortune cookies for this installation, Resident Alien. And you can see that on the left side, the painting is a Chinese railroad worker and the fortune cookie offering 10,000. I thought that was a big pile. But the 94, I did at Dion. It's a really an expansion of this 88 installation. And my work in general based on historical photograph. I like those photographs because it was chemical age with images fixed, in the chemical layers of the image, like this last, emperor Puyi, and when he was only 17, became the king, and then the subsequent there are a lot of photograph that time already. Photography invented, and of course went to China. The imperial court used a lot. Like the three, Fuji means wives. There's 3 wives of 1 king here, and they all sit there like with masks. And I entered, each one have a birdcage. And I did a lot of work on based on historical photograph of laborers, especially women at work, because myself was one of them. It's like this, remind me the time, I was in the countryside. And the refugee, it's also very important. I was born in the beginning, the end of a Chinese culture, Chinese Civil War. So I was a baby during the big chaotic, wartime. So I see this, even though based on historical photograph, but you see similar, situation today in the world. This is our refugees. And now some later painting like this called Modern Time. I saw a photograph of a woman very bored between conferences, and I decided the original photographs, of course, I grew up with 4 white men, Marx, Engels, Lenin, Stalin. Of course, Mao Zedong is the biggest one, it's our own. So I switched, on the other side, I switched all the 4 white men with the paintings by Van Gogh. As close as possible, like the postal guy looks like Marx with big beard, and so the others. So I felt like a modern, and the little objects are Cultural Revolutionary alarm clock. They are there and still working. You set up, the alarm will go off, like ticking. So it's like some kind of ticking bomb, but it's also about the time. As an artist, you review you look back. It's really strange. We grow up with 4 white men over China, actually, not just me. You can see the next one. When I was in college, the countryside, we have a picture. Some of my classmates, you cannot tell. We all look like peasants. But even the countryside, you can see Marx, Engels, Lenin, Stalin, and Mao Zedong there. That's modern time, our modern time. The next one, this is very interesting. This is a painting I did based on World War II, like a chemical war drill. And only you look at the right-hand side, the girl with a skirt, you realize that school uniform, they all young women. But with the mask, very hard. The war really turned beautiful young women to almost like a monster. And in China, traditional poetic way, we call beautiful women, beauties, call them hairpin, because women have long hair with beautiful hairpin, which I portrayed one, the antique on the bottom. But here, 12 hairpin, 12 beauties becomes like monsters. This painting supposedly to be shown in China and was censored. It was one of 9 paintings censored. I was really puzzled. I thought it's an anti-war painting. This is all good energy. Why was censored? Why is it dangerous? And it's about pollution in China. I had no idea. Then when I talked to a Chinese friend in art world, I said, "What's wrong with this painting?" And he just said one word, said Hong Kong. Then I said, Oh my God, I didn't know. As an artist, sometimes you think one way, then, politicians can interpret it. Not politicians interpret a different way. So it becomes a dangerous opinion. It becomes a protest because something else. So I think, it's interesting. Your work can be that powerful, even threaten the state, safety of the state. I said, well, I'll take it. Okay. And most recent, the last 5 years, I've been working with a historical photograph I've taken almost exclusively by Dorothea Lange. And I admire her as a woman photographer. This is my Chinese, refugee mother, is a Chinese migrant mother. And then I did the next one is based on Dorothea Lange's migrant mother. I don't see the big difference. They all mothers try to protect their children and the suffering in the hardest time and the uncertain future, but the still strengths they have, the spirit. So I admire Dorothea Lange took pictures of people in the worst situation, and after Dust Ball, of course, I say you can go faster. It's a series of photographs. I did a research, and based on her photograph, I did some paintings. We can go a little faster. That's a clouds of hers too. She took a photograph of clouds. Sometimes you have to look up at the sky in order to, to go on. So you can see first of all, her photograph of black white. So I, decide to use color, but also it's great to, like Leonard Cohen, one of his lines called, there's cracks in everything. That's how the light can get in. So I feel like a crack, the black-white photograph, maybe shine some color, some hope. And the children with in worse situation, but with unthinkable tenderness, love for other lives like this. You can go faster, just going through.
Hung, thank you for that fascinating overview of your life and work. And I wanted to lead off the question and answers. I'll just ask one of my own. You have quoted the poet Stanley Kunitz as saying, as having written, I have walked through many lives, some of them my own, and I am not who I was. And I'm curious, when you look back now on the Cultural Revolution and on all the people whose voices were silenced, do you feel on some level that you are painting and speaking on their behalf?
That's a very good question. Actually, people always talk about survivors' guilt, why other people didn't make it, but I did. But I don't feel that guilt, rather responsibility, and I feel the weight, heavy weight on my shoulders. I felt other people, didn't have chance. So I should be their voice. Other people never had a chance to show their faces. Nobody knew they even lived, and they had a life, they had suffered. So I felt like very important for me to give them voice, give them, show their faces. So that's probably, that's why in 2013, my retrospective at the Oakland Museum, I titled Summoning Ghosts, because so many ghosts there, they need to have a proper burial to be remembered. So my like a painting surface could be a memorial ground for all those lost lives.
It's amazing. Well, first, thank you, Hung, for this incredible presentation, and Timothy for being part of this conversation. I do want to direct a couple of questions that we have here from our audience. One you answered in the chat, but I thought it was a fun question from Janine. She said, silly but curious, did you commission the fortune cookie production locally, and did they have fortunes inside?
Actually, we didn't commission, but when we had that order, probably blew everybody's mind. Then when we talk about the price, without the message, without the fortune inside a lot cheaper. Of course, you think about the cost. So, well, you know what? We just, it's a mystery. You know, when the pile's there, some people even secretly try to, you know, get a few, but you have to, again, it makes sense. Without the fortune, you make your own fortune. You know, when it's interesting question.
Definitely. So one of our members has commented here towards the end of your presentation about her sheroes, Dorothea and Hung. And so on that note, we do have a question about Dorothea Lange's photography. So, you know, you showed us in our presentation that early on in your career, even before you had seen Lange's photography, you were already drawn to creating portraits of villagers. So how would you say your work changed after seeing Lange's photography? What specifically did you learn there?
I felt, you know, you talk a hero, Shiro, and Dorothea Lange is really my hero. And I felt I'm on her shoulder. She has a big shoulder. The reason not only she took so many photographs of people in the work situation, as a woman, she went to carry that's a chemical age. You know, we didn't have a digital camera, all the stuff, heavy equipment. She went to all the worst you can think condition, you know, the places. And even just when she shot the migrant mother, and I learned that she, after shooting for days, she was returning on the highway back to Berkeley. She left Berkeley, then passed by a very dark camp, and up 20 miles after, it's even in the night, and then she made a U-turn. She came back. She said she wants to find out what else. I feel as an artist, she demonstrates her hard work, compassion, also respect for people in the worst situation, to show their spirit strength, but also give their dignity back. That part, I feel like not just a simple she shot photos, you know, she shot photos a lot, like she was not like outsider. She let the children, you know, in poverty children touch her camera and use their dirty hands. So that part, the more I learn about her, the more I respect her. I felt, you know, that if I could, you know, use some of her images to make those people alive to be remembered, that's my great privilege and honor.
That's wonderful. I think we have time for one more question, and there are so many good ones in the Q&A, but I am going to focus on what I think there are a few that are similar that are asking about your process. So if you could speak a little bit to the influence of photography in your process, and then how you go from photograph to painting, and speak a little bit about that.
Yeah, of course, I learned how to do plein air painting, how to do landscape, how to do anything. But I think I've mainly focused on historic photograph. I like that time, you know, photography. Again, as I mentioned, it was a chemical age. You know, it is a fixed layers, like a frozen moment in time. Then how you learn from it. You cannot be in a lot of places, especially the time past. But what I learned is that as artists, probably not just find the image, turn into a painting or drawing or sculpture, but rather educate yourself. I think that feel yourself in, learn a lot you're not familiar with. Even you're familiar with, you can always learn so much more. Like the terms like sharecropper. I remember John Lewis' mother was sharecropper. And what does it mean? Then I learned so much about the history in the West through Dorothea Lange's photos, and like Bindlestiff, I learned not just terms, each term, behind each term, there's so much story, historical reference. So my process is that I learn, I look at a lot of information visually, also historically in text, in books. I really like the term literati artist, meaning in the olden days, artists not just paint or draw, but learn poem, learn literature, learn calligraphy. What I learned is like, I look at so many photographs, and then at some point you think, oh, one or two, it will be, what if I make this a dirty migrant baby to like a 6-footer portrait, what will that look like? But not at the beginning, you just, purpose is to do a painting. But I think purpose for me is to live and learn as an artist.
Amazing, thank you so much. There's so many questions that we could keep asking, but I do want to be cognizant of everyone's time and just thank you so much, Hung, and thank you, Tim, for your time, for your insights with us today. And also I want to say thank you to you out there, our audience, the hundreds of you who are watching from home. If you enjoyed today's event, I hope you'll follow in Hung's footsteps and do some more research, some more learning, looking into the images that we see and the meanings behind them. And I hope you'll also consider making a tax-deductible donation at donate.famisf.org. Your gifts help us serve more than 1.4 million people, including families, students, and art-loving individuals every year. A gift in any amount makes a tremendous impact, and we appreciate your support so much. Again, you can make a contribution by visiting donate.famsf.org. You should see a poll on screen now. Please take a moment to give us your feedback. As you know, these virtual events are new, and so we are always looking for ways to make them work better for you. And once more, thank you all so much for joining us today. On behalf of everyone at the Fine Arts Museums, we truly thank you for your support. Remember to keep an eye on your email inbox for updates regarding our reopening dates, and I hope you'll all come to the De Young as soon as we are able to welcome you back to see the De Young open. Thank you so much and have a great day.